Hello, welcome to Mellyworm, and this is Deck Tech, where I go through one of my commander decks and teach you how to play it. So today's deck is Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, which is essentially a game drain deck. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deck. So, first thing I want to address is the fact that the main concept or strategy behind the deck is that the more life I gain, the more you hurt someone else. I don't particularly enjoy having a commander deck that revolves too heavily around the commander, which is also why I have Sanguine Bond. And the reason why Vito is the commander for this deck is on his card, it states, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, which is the exact same text as Sanguine Bond. However, Vito also has the nifty little addition of, for 5 mana, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn, which is extremely nice, but we'll get to more of that in a second. Some important cards that are in this deck are Sanguine Bond, which I discussed previously, Vito Swarm, in case you need to get rid of any pesky enchantments or creatures, Exquisite Blood, which provides several game-ending combos, and Aetherflux Reservoir in case Exquisite Blood doesn't work out. This deck non-deliberately became a vampire tribal deck, which if you saw my Hydra video, you would know that most tribes synergize very well because that's how they work. But the main concept behind this deck is to gain as much life as possible and use that against your opponents. So, with that in mind, there's a few noteworthy creatures where it kind of provides alternate win conditions or things that you can use to beef up your creatures so you can win via combat damage. So, Marauding Blight Priest kind of serves like the same concept as Vito, just much slower. However, if Exquisite Blood is on the field, it doesn't matter. It achieves the same result. Just technically slower, but with infinite, it doesn't matter. Vampire Nocturnus, which beefs up all your vampires, especially in a mono black deck, because that's how Vampire Nocturnus works, and that's also how mono black decks work, with the exception of like the occasional artifact. Blood Artist, probably one of, if not the most famous vampires, where it states whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This one is particularly nifty if you have a Massacre Worm and someone's playing goblins, just because Massacre Worm is essentially a board wipe for anything that's toughness 2 or less, which is extremely handy, and I like to throw them in pretty much all of my mono black decks. Great to have on hand. Necropolis Regent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. With Vampire Nocturnus, it's very hard to block a lot of vampires, so with that, things get big really quickly. And Bloodthirsty Aerialist, which states whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodthirsty Aerialist. Again, it just kind of beefs it up, but that kind of helps facilitate the win condition of reducing your opponent's life total down to 0 via combat damage. However, with that being said, let's get into the combos. So as I mentioned previously, Exquisite Blood is probably one of the biggest combo pieces in this deck. Now, there's a lot of tutors, such as Vampiric Tutor, Diabolic Tutor. I need to get Demonic Tutor, but that's beside the point. Where basically, if Exquisite Blood, which states whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. That combos off infinitely with Vito, Sanguine Bond, and Marauding Blight Priest, I believe. Yes. So that is the main one, but in the event of that thing gets blown up, there's a whole bunch of graveyard recursion in the deck, which means you can pull stuff out of the graveyard. Now there's also Feed the Swarm in case you need to deal with anyone else's troubling enchantments, such as opponents can't gain life. Another noteworthy card is Aetherflux Reservoir, which basically states whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each additional spell cast this turn, I believe. Yes. And then there's also the nifty little bit where it says pay 50 life and target opponent loses 50 life, or creature, I believe. Yeah, target creature or player takes 50 points of damage. That's usually more than enough to take someone out of the game. So whenever your strategy is to gain as much life as possible, it's pretty easy to hit above the 50 life needed in order to utilize Aetherflux Reservoir. Those are the big ones that I wanted to go over. Now, as I said previously, there are a lot of vampires in this deck that kind of beef each other up. I'm not going to go through the entire deck because you don't want to do that. However, there is a comprehensive deck list in the description below if you are interested in that. However, that is it for this video. The main strategy is to just gain as much life as possible. It's fairly straightforward, but I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments below. And I do really enjoy this deck because it's a great introduction to mono black strategy. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and we'll learn something new in the next video.